we should secure the border. That means a wall. It means doubling the size of Border Patrol. And it means let's get back to deporting people who try to break into our country, something that Mark Kelly routinely votes against.
And I've stood up to Democrats when they're wrong on this issue.
It sounds like
including, by the way,
yes,
including the president. You know, when the president decided he was going to do something dumb on this and change the rules, you know, that would create a bigger crisis, you know, I told him he was wrong.
And that was some of the back and forth between U.S. Senator Mark Kelly and his Republican challenger Blake Masters during their only televised debate last week. The Donald Trump-backed Masters slammed Kelly as Joe Biden's puppet. Kelly took a shot at a dumb Biden policy. I think he angered some Democrats with that. Later branded Masters as a threat to all women. Who won? Who lost? And is this race already over? Joining us to let us know, our political insiders, Christine Jones, former Republican candidate for Arizona governor, and Tony Cani, former deputy director of the Biden campaign in Arizona and campaign manager for Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego. Welcome back to Square Off.
Good morning.
Thanks for having us.
Tony, I don't think there were any of the viral moments that campaign managers dread in that debate last night, or did I miss it?
No, I don't think there were any big moments that will change the outcome of the election. I think each candidate got a good shot in that they want to like put on Twitter and stuff. But you know, at the end of the day, I think this didn't change the dynamics, which is a good thing for the person in the lead, Senator Kelly.
What did we learn during this debate about the candidates?
Well, I think for Masters and his campaign, a win was just not blowing up, not misspeaking. And really where he might have gained a little traction is getting Kelly on the defensive, which he did. And I hope you're going to circle back and talk about Mark Victor, because I really believe that Mark Victor, who most voters had never heard of before, might have picked up some votes last night.
So as you're saying that, I was already writing Mark Victor because I predicted before the debate, watch this guy, because I've moderated debates with Mark Victor. I've known Mark Victor for years as a lawyer. He's been somebody who's been on the news as a lawyer. But talk to that, because a lot of the polls are not accounting for Mark Victor, a libertarian candidate. Who could he hurt when the final results come in?
It's a really good question. Now, we've seen some head-to-head polls that are basically tied or within the margin of error. If you don't put in a candidate who's probably by definition going to pick up maybe 3 to 4 points, your poll is shot, right? So I think the latest poll I saw says Kelly 51, Masters 48. Somebody's polling those 3 or 4% of the vote, right? Based on last night, and he talking about, could we please just not talk about abortion? Could we please just not fight with each other? Could we please just have a solution and move on? He showed up as an adult, and he probably pulls a little from Kelly on that issue, and on the border, a little from Masters.
What about the Victor factor?
Oh, I think it hurts the Republicans. I don't think
it usually does.
Yeah, I just think that just when it comes to like the overall math of it, it's going to end up being a net positive for, you know, for Mark Kelly, that he's even in it.
Yeah, but Mark Victor, he acquitted himself well. Let's look ahead to Wednesday. Early ballots will be mailed to Arizona voters, then it's a 4-week sprint to Election Day. What's your sense of where voters are at right now, Tony, in a campaign like nothing we've ever seen before? They've been watching ads for a year now.
I think that there aren't many undecided voters, but the election's going to be so close that you have to be campaigning for that very small number of undecided voters that are left. And I think a big chunk of those are going to be Republicans who aren't interested in voting for, you know, like a Mark Fincham, for example, or somebody like that, but they haven't made the decision yet that they're willing to cross over. And so I think that's where the battleground is right now, is Republicans trying to retain people and Democrats trying to get some of them over.
How do you see it?
I don't disagree, although I think when you're talking about the latest CBS poll, 49-49 in the Hobbs Lake race, those 2% will decide, and they're seemingly tuning out most of the ads that have been on, as you say, for a year now. So much noise. It's just sort of, you know, going over people's heads. Will you cross over? And I think that probably weighs in favor of Kari Lake, because she's well known and she's good to the camera and she's showing up and she has massive crowds at every single event. So on the head-to-head with only 2% undecided, I think that weighs in Lake's favor.
You want to get
Well, I mean, I just think that if you consider the last governor's race, how far ahead Ducey was at this point, I think there's a lot of conversation about whether or not Katie Hobbs is running a great campaign. She's in the lead or it's tied in a tough year for Democrats. And I think that, that the proof is in the polling, the proof is in vote choice. I think that she's reaching the voters she needs to reach.
Okay, we will see. I want to go back to Republican Governor Doug Ducey. We haven't talked a lot about him lately. Just 3 months left in his term. Last week, Governor Ducey appeared to wash his hands of two major issues that he played a role in making more complicated: the state's conflicting abortion laws. Ducey kept saying the 15-week ban is the law of the land, although he denied that last week. And his and the legislature's failure to lift a spending cap on K-12 school districts. That could prevent districts from spending more than $1 billion next year that the legislature and governor already awarded them. We saw that this past year. Here's what the governor said about lifting the spending cap before he leaves office.
And to have a special session, you have to have the votes. That's been really my price of entry for calling a special session, and I don't have any evidence of the votes at this time.
Christine Jones, I don't have the votes to do this. Is that the way it should be, and he'll leave office with this big deal still on the table?
It certainly looks like he's willing to. I took exception to the price of entry quote. Putting that aside for a minute, somebody has to reconcile the prior ban on abortion and the 15-week rule, right? Somebody has to. It should be the legislature. If he refuses to bring them back or they refuse to do it, the Supreme Court has to do it. But let's briefly talk about the
And by the way, he wants the Supreme Court to do it.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's easier. You don't have to put your name on it, which is what you do when everything you do is done for yourself. But on the spending,
That was a shot.
we have been talking about this for a long time. I know it's complicated and it takes more than 7 seconds to decide, right? So we get the average Twitter user's attention span gone on this thing. This is a very big deal, and he should solve it because it's been a deal all the time that he has been the governor.
Is this the governor sticking it to the public schools as he leaves office? That was done immediately. He said that immediately after an event where he awarded more than $1 million to schools that depend on school vouchers.
I think there's some of that, but really he's abdicated any responsibility for the legislature these past couple of years. And it's just basically he doesn't have any control over the caucus. He can't get Republicans, and he's unwilling to work with Democrats, it seems like, on this issue. And so, it's just irresponsible. That's not how you govern. The price of admission for a special session is written in the Constitution. It's that the governor says there is one. That's it. And he's in charge of it. And so he would be able to, if he really cared about solving this problem, he could get people in the room together and he could get the votes. But he's just too interested in national campaigning right now.
All right, we're going to move on. When we come back, Liz Cheney endorses 2 Arizona Democrats, and Donald Trump visits the Valley today with Marjorie Taylor Greene to boost what he calls the Trump ticket. Will they help or hurt?